this very last part that I'm working in the Outlander coloring book on this coloring page that I named Jamie and Claire. I'm going to finish off this piece and I'm going to color both that column here and the cloth and the candle holder and the table, and I'm going to put in the final little details, shading things, putting things into the foreground this time round. I'm talking to you about how I shade wood that is in the foreground and that is lit up by a fireplace, and I'm just all in all going to finish this coloring page. So join me. Hello and welcome to the final part of this coloring page, which I didn't name yet. I wanted to name it Castle Lear, but then looking at the next coloring page, I'm definitely not gonna name it like that, so I haven't decided yet. So that's why I'm calling it this video. This video series. This is part 8. It's gonna be the last part, and all these tiny little bits here are the final things to color. I'm going to start with the wooden column and then go on with these bits down here at the table, and then I will have a final look on if I want to add anything, maybe a little more black line somewhere, maybe, or if I don't want to do that. But for now I'm going to start with the column there. At this point, I'm very sure I won't introduce any new colors. At least, I don't have any new colors planned. Maybe here at the candle holder, but probably not. But coming back to the column, these are all the colors that I used in this coloring page. Wonder if I am, hold on, I'll have to flip the screen of the camera a bit for you to see. There we go. Let's see which colors I'm going to use. I'm going to use the same ones that I used for the headboard. So I'm having a black, the dark blue, and the maroon, this one here, and the cold brown. Now let's see if this is the cold one. Yeah, it is. And a bit of the dark gray. Oop. So these are the colors. I'm having a little bit of light here on this side where the firelight hits it. So I'm going to add a bit of the yellow ochre for the firelight to bounce off of, just like I did here with the headboard. And I'm starting with the highlight. So it will hit here. It will hit here. Of course, it will hit a lot here because the candle is there and it lights up that wood, gives it a highlight. And then that is that. Jamie and Claire are covering the way for this part here to be lit up a lot, so I'm just going to add a smidge of the light there. Then I can go in and color the rest of that column here with my maroon color. It's a purplish brown, purple reddish brown, and can already go on top of
the highlight there as well. Just giving everything here a solid layer. And then I can start darkening things up. And darkening things up means that I can now layer the dark brown on top. And I find it easiest actually with these large parts to color, to just color sections when it comes to details. Otherwise you get maybe a little loose and a little, well, not precise and careful enough when you color certain parts. And then it could be that it doesn't fit the look of the rest of your coloring page, where you had to color smaller items or smaller sections, and they were maybe a little more intricate, and you spend a lot of time on them to bring them together. And with these large sections, it's sometimes, I find it sometimes a little more difficult to then be as precise and as careful with my layers as I am on these smaller bits. So by sectioning them off and coloring one bit by bit by bit by bit to the end, I actually find it easier to then have things look cohesive and well layered up with the color and such. So that's why I'm going to go section by section now to color this. And that actually lets me also zoom you in a bit, because I don't. Oh gosh, I'm too short. My arms are too short to get to the button at the end of the camera to, yeah, that's a nice amount of zoom in. So let's see there. I can now show you the zoomed in version and have a little bit of a closer look here to how I shade things there. I think I don't need the dark gray, so I'm going to put that back. I can go in with the black right away. So that side here is in the dark. So I'm going to darken this up. And then I can shade a bit here and there on these carvings. Give a little bit more interest to the coloring page. A little more of the dark brown. There we go. Section 1, check. Now I can go in, oh, Just saw, need a little darker here. There we go. Can go into that part of the column. Should be in frame though. There we go. All of that. And I'm just going to bring in the dark brown. And like that, I'm going to color this column bit by bit by bit by bit and make it look nice and brown. Like a nice piece of wood. I'm going to start layering the blue on top. I'm going to work with the pattern here a bit to darken some things or cooling some things off a little more than others. Because that will help with keeping the interest at the page. A little bit of black. Of course, the complete left-hand side is gonna be darkened a lot. And also this lower part here is gonna be darker. And then I'm going to blend it out towards the top here. Bringing in the maroon. Now that I have the general color of this part down, I can start with the fine tuning, meaning the darkest shadows here, layering them on top. And also working with the patterns here that came with that piece of wood. I'm just going over those lines here. Bringing them out a bit more. By using those warm brown colors here, I'm making sure that this column is moved to the foreground, because it actually is in front of Claire and Jamie here. Need a little more of the yellow ochre to intensify the firelight. There we go. That is that part. Now I would go on for this section here. This one being the middle of the column pretty much. So I can go in with the dark brown. Or maybe I just go to this part here. That's enough maybe as a section to be colored. Layering the blue on top again. Doing the same thing pretty much, section per section per section. And that helps pulling things to the foreground or moving them into the background. So the ones, the sections here where there's a little more blue, then this maroon red, they are pushed into the background, meaning that leaf here is in the foreground, it is raised, and the rest is pretty much moved into the background. So you will have an easier time than knowing on what part is carved into the wood and what part is standing out. And in this case, the leaf is standing out and the other parts here are pushed back. Shading from the left-hand side again. Very gently darkening this wood here from the left-hand side, bit by bit by bit by bit, layer by layer by layer, again very gently, so that I'm able to have very subtle changes between the colors. Go, adding a little bit of the brown here, because the yellow is just a smidge too bright. There we are. Gonna squint very quickly to see if my values are correct. And I see that this is not dark enough here. And also this line here. There we are. Next up, the next two bubbles. And just like before, I'm going in with the brown first. In large ovals or circles to have a very smooth coloring going on. Then I can layer the blue on top for the parts that I want to be pushed back. And that is pretty much that part here. There we are. I can layer the maroon on top. Nice big circles. And then going on top with the black, shading all these bits here. sorry. I'm just going back and forth until I have the values right to the point that I want them to be. Also shading the carvings a bit here with my black pencil, bringing out certain parts and make them more visible, and others just push back into the background, make them a bit darker. So it's the same thing over and over again when it comes to shading this carved wood here. And I just always ask myself in the back of my mind, does the light hit it? Is it the darkest shadow here? Is it a mid-tone? And accordingly, I'm just using different amounts of certain colors, in this case. Mainly the black here for shading. But I will also bring in the red in a moment, once more, to bring this part together here. A little more of the yellow. There we go. Okay, now I can go to this long section here, and I'm almost done with that column. I'm definitely gonna finish this page today. I haven't, by the way, decided yet which page I'm going to color next in the Magical City coloring book. I haven't looked at it yet. But once I am done with that page, I'm going to return back to this book and color Castle Lear. And I'm thinking watercolors or neo colors, maybe with a combination of colored pencils or Inktense pencils for that. And it will probably have way less parts than this one here. But I have said it so often in these videos, colored pencils is a very slow medium. And if you want to have a very vibrant and a very rich colored page, it will take quite a couple of layers to put down. So, respectively, it will take quite a couple of layers to color there. You can see here on these parts of this column is about 10 layers of color in total that I'm putting down. So it's quite a bit. It takes quite a while. You just got to be aware. It's not a bad thing. Sometimes I'm really in the mood for a slow medium, and then I definitely gravitate towards a colored pencil work, solely colored pencil that is. But most of the times I want to have a medium slow kind of a process. Means I'm base coating with a watercolor or an Inktense pencil or something, and then I put the details on top with colored pencil. I really like the combination of the, you can put down color really fast, of water soluble medium, and the, I can put in some of the details in a very controlled fashion, very slowly, and using the colored pencils for that. And now I'm just going to have to color this bottom part, and then I can say that this column is done. Can hardly put any color on top anymore. It's really saturated by now. This is going to be quite dark down here. There's hardly any light that hits this, so a lot of brown, a lot of blue. A little more of the yellow here, just very little. And a bit of the red. And then I can bring in a lot of the black from the left-hand side. Sorry if I again dropped out of frame. I'm just blackening these parts here. A little bit more of a blue here. Quick squint. I need a little bit of a brown here and here. And now I'm going to add a little more black here on the curtain just to bring the wooden column into the foreground a little more. There we go. Same on this side. Voila. Maybe I should do the same thing here as well. All right. Kind of casts a bit of a shadow. So let's bring in that shadow here. Okay. Now I can go on to the candle. And there I'm taking the two yellows that I also used for the fire in the fireplace, and the red and the orange, and also a tiny little bit of a light blue down here. I'm in frame? Yes, I'm in frame. So a little bit, maybe a bit of a cold purple on top too. And then the yellow. Going in with orange. And just a tiny little bit of red. The candle itself is going to be beige, so I'm going to take the beige, the white, and the warm gray. And I'm mostly gonna color it warm gray, because there's gonna be the fabric down here, and I want to have the same color though as for the bandages, but maybe a little more to the beige than the ones that I used on Jamie or in Claire's hands. Blending out, again, blending out my gray and my skin tone. A little more of that yellowish brown, just a smidge here. There we go. And now onto the candle holder. There I want to go with the cold grays. I'm gonna zoom you out just a tiny bit, because otherwise I have trouble to have everything in frame. Here we go. I'm also going to use the black and the dark blue for the candle holder. And I'm starting off with the light gray. Just giving this a whole layer. And then I can start shading with the dark gray. The light again comes from the right hand side and from the top this time round. So that is why I don't have this shaded, because the light from the candle does light this up. It's a little simpler here, where the candle holder is narrower than this circle, because that circle pretty much shades anything underneath. Now we do have a ditch here, and then this just feathers out. And down here it is hit again by the light, because this circumference here is way larger than the plate on top there. But it is also shaded from this bowl, so we do have shadow going on a lot as well. I'm taking in a little bit of the blue, because the surroundings here have blue in them. So the tone will maybe be a little cooler, or I want them to be a little cooler. There's enough of the warm colors in this page here already. So I'm just adding a tiny little bit of the blue. And then going in for the very dark. Just very softly applying the color here. I don't want this to go too dark too fast. And then I can go in once more with my light gray. And give it another layer. Adding a bit more of the darkest shadows here. Just adding a little bit of detail and contrast here, having some parts just be a little darker, where the light doesn't bounce off. I'm not going to use the silver. I think this is just more on the cheaper side of things here, so it's not silver. I think that is why I'm not bringing in the silver pencil. But I am now going to color the fabric here, and for that I'm going to take the warm gray, a warm yellowish brown, something like a raw sienna, and a beige, and I'm gonna start off with a layer of beige. Then I'm drawing in the shadows with the yellowish brown. I think it could very well be a raw sienna. Then I'm following the folds here as well and the wrinkles. And then I can bring in the warm gray. To add a bit here. I might also bring a bit of the dark gray in. Yeah, I'm going to. This is not I cannot go dark enough with the warm gray pencil, so I'm going to bring in the dark gray. It's a cool gray, but I'm gonna make it work. Sorry for the background noise. It's still the 1st of January, so if I cannot edit out the fireworks that people are still working with, I'm sorry about that. Adding a little bit of white just to blend things together. Need a little more of the dark gray down here. Again, I'm squinting for just a split second to see if my values are correct, and it tells me, nope, you need a bit more here. That's more like it. And now I only have to color in the table. I need a sip of tea. And while I'm drinking my tea, I can think about what color I want to use on that table. I kind of want to go in the same color as I went with the column, that reddish brown. It would bring that column and the headboard and this part here together. And I'm having other browns here, the maroon, kind of a reddish brown and the greenish brown here. So I think I'm going to go with that plan, bringing in the reddish brown, the maroon. But there's going to be a little bit of fireplace reflection here. What I can also do now is change this sheet up to go like this. It's a little more comfortable to color, so I can bring in a bit of a reflection here and then go on top. Once I have sharpened my pencil, go on top of the rest of the table, so the white space I can go on top with my maroon. I will probably not give this any wooden grain. Just make it a very flat surface here. I think there is enough going on in this picture already, so I don't need to have more patterns. And now I can bring in the cold brown. I'm going to sharpen my pencil. Bring in a nice solid layer. And then bringing in the blue for the cold shades. So here behind the bowl, for example, Also here underneath that fabric, that cloth thing. And underneath the candle holder. Just a tiny little bit underneath that bandage here. And this is where I'm also going to layer the black on top. So here underneath. Then underneath the bowl. And of course underneath the candle holder. Shading a little heavier to the left because the fireplace is on the right. So it's always the same principle on how much to shade where. It always depends on where is your light source. It's one of the most important questions that you have to answer for yourself when you do anything with artwork, when you draw anything or paint anything, color anything. Where's your light coming from? It's like a mantra almost. I can go on top once more with the maroon color. To be careful here on the edge of the paper. It's always the most annoying thing to color the edge of the paper because if you go a little too heavy into the wrong direction, you might crease your paper or have these, well, nicks in it and such, and I don't want to have that. So I gotta be careful, but it is a little annoying sometimes. Luckily, it is the smallest surface in the whole coloring page. The frame is the littlest thing in most of the coloring pieces here. I think I have to go on top with the brown once more. This is a little too red for my personal taste. So I'm going to bring in the dark brown once more and layer this on top quite heavily. There we go. That's more like it. Finishing off with a little more of the yellow ochre, just layering it on top. There we go. Let's squint. It needs a little darker here. And blending out the dark a bit more with the blue, just to give it a little more interest and oomph. Et voila! Let me take a final look at the page without the glare. So I have to check values. Yeah. We are good, so I'm going to zoom you out. There we are. Ta-da! It's done. This is the final part. Now I can look over this page and see, okay, I want a little more of the black line here on this candle. So I'm just going around the page now, checking where I want the darker, the black lines just a little more emphasized, where I just have to go over the printed lines with my pencil here, just to hype up the contrast a bit. And that will be the final touch then, I think, for this coloring page. Looks kind of good. Maybe a little here on the hand. Just a very little tiny trick to hype up the contrast on a coloring page where you used a lot of light colors to go over a certain area. Just go on over with a black pencil afterwards and just add back the darkness from the black lines. It will make a difference. You could go over things also now with a gel pen or something if you'd have parts that you wanted to have a gel pen on them, like a white gel pen or a metal gel pen on the buckle, for example. But I don't think I will. No, I won't go over it with a gel pen, but I'm going to leave it as it is. This finishes the coloring page, finally. I thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this very long 8-part series of this coloring page. Next time I'm gonna work in this book, I'm gonna color Castle Leoch, like I had said. But next week I'm gonna work in the Magical City first, before coming back to this. The blog post is up by now, having all the pencils that I used today listed, as well as close-up photos of the coloring page. You can check out my blog in the description box below. There is my webpage, and you will find everything there that you want to, well, look up. I will see you next week with a new coloring page. Thank you again for watching. If you have questions, comments, the comment section is all yours. Feel free. And take good care. Have a wonderful day, a wonderful weekend, soon-ish. And if you have some time to color, that would be great. If you happen to have colored this page with me here, I would love to see photos, so tag me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Feel free, I would love to see your work. And thanks again. I'm gonna see you very soon. Bye!